I want to start by asking you about the story that you posted on social media about the FA's ban on transgender women in football. You said, football deserves everything, our game is for everyone. Just tell us a bit about where that came from for you.
Yeah, listen, obviously, like most things on social media, it's a bit of a emotional response to, something that's obviously been in the back burner for a long time for the conversation from gender critics all around the country. We've seen it with the Supreme Court ruling and what's happening up in Scotland. And it's just been, for me, football always felt like the place where we wouldn't be so heavy-handed, I suppose, in the especially in the immediate aftermath of what's already a really worrying decision for all trans people and queer people in the country. So yeah, it was really disappointing for, especially from a federation that has supported rainbow lace campaigns, has been very clear in their rhetoric about football being for all, and to so quickly take that away from a small group of footballers who want to do nothing but enjoy the game that we all love. And yeah, it was just really, really disappointing to see that ruling come out, as I say, in particular in such a close timing to the Supreme Court ruling.
With this focus, especially on football, and like you said, it feeling heavy-handed, what is it about football that I guess feels like it shouldn't be so extreme?
I think what was so surprising is I think football has the tendency to be a little bit more measured and really kind of tackle issues in a more pragmatic approach, I guess, and rather to kind of, as I say, I'm not sure exactly how they came to make this decision so quickly, so I can't really comment on that. But as I said, the ruling felt rash, and as I said, the word heavy-handed is probably the clearest way to put it. So I think that was probably the reason why that it felt like that.
And why is that Supreme Court ruling worrying to you?
Recent years, it felt like we'd made such progress in visibility in the queer community and for trans people to be not just more open in sport, but in all of everyday life, and especially from a generational perspective. From my point of view, that had felt like we'd made huge strides forward and great progress. And I know that a lot of trans people still suffer from discrimination and on a daily basis, of course, but in the broader context of the conversation, I suppose it felt like that we'd made strides forward. And over recent months, as I said, not to go into it too deeply, but the rise of right-wing populist politics in Europe, and the debate around gender critics being such a huge part of that conversation, which is also so frustrating, as tends to be a standout topic in a lot of these things. And just feels like we're taking those strides away from where we want to go, and the direction that it felt like we probably were going for years.
Is this something that you've seen other men in football speak about much?
Not particularly. I think even that was another disappointing part about the day of the FA ruling, that I didn't really feel that there was much of a public display of support or allyship in across the men's game that was very visible at all. That was also a disappointing aspect to it. So I still think we've got a long way to go in football, and especially men's football, to feel confident to speak out on any social issues, let alone when it comes to LGBTQI plus rights and things like that, where maybe players don't feel confident or supported to even make those statements themselves.
We know obviously there are about 28 trans women who play football in the UK. The number is absolutely tiny when you look at everyone who plays football.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't people kind of in the WSL, as we know, but how would you respond to playing with a trans man if there was a man in your team who was transgender?
Same way you would want to treat any teammate, with respect and as an equal, like you would in any environment that you would want to be a part of. So I think that's, as you mentioned there, the small number of trans women who are competing in football in the UK, it just emphasizes even more how not unnecessary, but how heavy-handed that decision was. And as you said, like, I feel like most footballers would welcome any new teammate into their environment, despite of the gender they identify as, or their sexuality, or anything along that anything along those lines.
Is there anything that you'd really like to add?
As I said, I think that the game has taken strides forward. I think as generationally, we are in a more accepting and open space as footballers as well as in our communities. And, I would like to see more people stand up against, when we try to take rights away from our fellow, footballers, and, try and do everything we can to make sure that everyone who plays our game has a safe and inclusive space to play the game that we all love.